What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to another episode of the Take 3 podcast. My name is Brandon. As always, I'm joined by my co-host Alex here on a Saturday morning. Change it up, little delay between our last episode and this one, but we're back again. NFC West, highly competitive, at least it seems to be at the top, right? The Rams and the 49ers, those are always good games. As we got to see 3 times last year, the Cardinals are always interesting. Kyler finally gets paid and, D-Hop's out. But now we look at the Seattle Seahawks as well. I mean, what is there to look at? The team's horrible. Pete Carroll, I don't even know why Pete Carroll is still coaching the team. He probably should have, skipped out of town when they traded Russell Westbrook. Jesus, Russell Wilson. But yes, I mean, how you doing on a Saturday? And let's get into this.
I'm doing well. Excited to talk NFC West. Probably one of the best divisions of football outside of the lowly Seahawks. So let's get going.
Yeah, the Seahawks are just so disappointing to talk about. They're on the screens. Let's just jump right into it. Let's knock the Seahawks out. They went 7-10 last year. Obviously, when you have Russell Wilson, I'm not going to say Westbrook again. Russell Wilson, that can elevate your wins a little bit more. They come in this year, obviously, off the big trade. They now have Geno Smith, who won the job. Pete Carroll announced last night. I don't even know if that's a good thing. Probably better than Drew Lock. Drew Lock saw a couple highlights in the preseason. Dudes staring down corners, throwing the ball directly to him. He's not good. They still have DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, Freddie Swain. They got wide receiver depth, D. Eskridge as well. They drafted Charles Cross. So they have some weapons out there. The O-line's always been an issue. They have Gabe Jackson. There's just not much there. They got a lot of building to do. And then when you go to the defensive side, Shelby Harris, they got from Denver in the trade, Poona Ford's there. You look at the secondary, Jamal Adams, he slotted in at strong safety. I don't consider him a safety. It's like a mock linebacker. He's there. Quandre Diggs is nice. I like them too, but outside of that on the defensive side, there's not much to get excited for. So, the first thing really when we jump into the Seahawks is, what does life after Russell Wilson really look like this year? It's going to be a long year, isn't it?
I think so. I feel like the Seattle franchise did the opposite of what they should have done, like get rid of the 70-year-old coach and do whatever it takes to retool around your future Hall of Famer quarterback. They did the opposite. They got rid of him, kept the old coach. They're going to go back to like a defense run system. Or I guess they never left it technically, but it's like they don't have a lot of pieces. I don't like the offensive line, like offensively. They do have some weapons like running back, tight end. I like Rashad Penny, Noah Fant, I like the receivers, everything else not great. And then I like the pair of safeties defensively, but they just don't have much. It's going to be a long year. And I don't know what Seattle really thinks, because historically that franchise has not been great outside of Russell Wilson. Yes, they had a run with Sean Alexander and they made the Super Bowl before that, but you can't just replace a Hall of Fame quarterback. They're not guaranteed, even with the number 1 pick or whatever draft pick they get, to get another guy like Russell Wilson. I thought it was kind of crazy. I think they're in for a long year. And even after that, I think rebuilding could be tough, especially in this NFC West. So I think they're going to realize the grass is not always greener. They should have just did whatever it takes with Russell, but it's going to be a long year for Seahawks fans.
Yeah, I thought they would just pack it in with both guys, to be honest. It felt like that was the way that they would roll with it. I thought if Russ goes, why is Pete Carroll going to stick around, right? They're kind of like a duo, although the relationship kind of got strained towards the end when there was rumors that Russ wanted out. But yeah, you're spot on. I even forgot to mention Noah Fant there, and I can't believe you dissed Matt Hasselbeck. You mentioned Sean Alexander. You don't give number 8 Matt Hasselbeck a little bit of respect. But yeah, it's tough to replace a Hall of Fame quarterback, right? You can have the weapons, you can have everything, you could even have defensive pieces, but the game now we see is ran by the quarterback position, and they don't have it, right? Geno Smith, he's a serviceable backup. We've seen him around the league plenty. Drew Lock, obviously garbage. Jacob Eason, they just don't have anything there. And then when you look at defense, you're like, okay, can their defense somehow make plays, maybe steal a win or two, get them a little bit ahead of where you think you would have them? No, they don't got anything on that side of the ball either. I forgot to mention Kenneth Walker too. He had the hernia surgery, probably misses a little bit at the beginning. So I'm kind of interested to see, how that works out between him and Rashad Penny when he comes back, because you spend that draft capital on a running back like that. You imagine he's going to at least get some touches, so they'll probably split them. But yeah, it's going to be long. You got to see what they do, what pick they fall, but it's tough to replace a guy like Russell Wilson, especially within a year. It might be 3, 4, 5 years before we see the Seahawks return to relevancy in this division, especially when you got Kyler Murray in Arizona, Trey Lance seemingly looking to take the reins in San Fran, and then obviously defending champs. I think that the Rams kind of run might be a little bit shorter, but the other two, the 49ers and the Cardinals, they're going to be there for years with their guys. So they're in a tough spot.
I mean, they barely squeezed out 7 with Russell, and like I just don't see how I don't see how they win games this year.
No, it's going to be tough. So yeah, question 2 is, how long do you think the leash is for Geno Smith? Right? I had either of the quarterbacks. That was before they said that Geno was the starter. How long do you think, Pete Carroll's leashes? Do you think it gets to midseason week 12 and they're nothing, right, as we think? Will they just kind of throw Drew Lock out there, just see because you have nothing to lose at that point, right?
Yeah, I think it's gonna be one of those situations. Geno Smith starts. I can see a scenario where he just is the starter for the year. Like, they don't have good quarterback play. I don't think they're gonna get it from any of these guys. I think most likely what's gonna happen is Geno Smith stinks it up a little bit to the point where they get frustrated. They throw Drew Lock in there, maybe even for a few games in a row he starts, right, and then it's just a carousel because then they get frustrated with Drew Lock and they go back to Geno Smith. There's no good answers. I could see them both end up getting starts just to see if one of them provides a spark in any way, to see if they can just score or win a game. But I think they're not going to get good consistent play, and we're going to see both of them at just because neither of them are doing that great.
Yeah, I can assure you neither of them are going to provide a spark. It is, yeah, I'm kind of in agreement. I do think Drew Lock will at some point get tossed out there just to see. You bring him in that trade, you might as well find out, because you're not going anywhere, especially with Geno Smith anyway. And we've seen what Geno Smith is. But I could also see where Geno Smith holds on to the job and they just kind of ride it out, knowing what it is and realize that they're going to draft a quarterback anyway, they don't even need to see Drew Lock, right? Because they know he's not the future. But yeah, that's kind of, I expect Drew Lock to see the field at some point, just to kind of see what you have there. Any shot Jacob Eason steals some snaps?
That was my first question. I was thinking, I was like, it's to the point where, like, can we see Jacob Eason? Like,
yeah, could we see the 3 QB ring? I don't. Yeah, I mean, they could. I don't think it matters. We'll see.
There was hypothetical talks. I mean, I think it's completely dead about Jimmy G at one point, and like, I just think that would be a terrible idea as well for both parties. It's just Seattle needs to just simply lose some games for a little bit and then retool.
For sure. I've heard Mason Rudolph floated around as well. You might as well keep the 3.
That's interesting.
You might as well keep the 3 dudes you have in the building already. You can lose plenty of games with those guys. Last question about the Seahawks. It's tough to drum up questions about this team, but is this Pete Carroll's last year? You think, after this year, it's going to be a long year. He's 71, 70 years old. You think he'll call it?
Yeah, that's actually tough for me to answer. I thought maybe they would clean house if they're getting rid of Russell and get rid of both of them. But since he's still here and like he's doing the rebuild, I have a hard time seeing it. I could see him doing 1 to 3 more years, as crazy as that sounds. Just because he seems to have a lot of power in that franchise. They seem to really like Pete Carroll, even though he's kind of outdated a little bit. He had a great run. Don't get me wrong. He was a phenomenal coach for a point in time. But I'm going to go on a limb and say Pete Carroll has 1 more year after this one.
Yeah, I think, I could agree. I could go at the far deep and say that's going to be it. But if he's sticking it out for this year, he's going to at least want to see what quarterback they get to bring in, right? Whether it's Bryce Young, whether it's whoever they draft, right? He's going to want to be there to kind of see what the beginning, at least, of that era looks like. And then if it doesn't work out, he'll move on after next year. See, I'll give him another year after this one, but it's just crazy, right? I thought that he would be gone. I mean, he's 70, as you said, he's outdated. He's just not there, but it seems like he has a lot of, as you said, power, and he doesn't seem burnt out on the sidelines. You usually see old dudes burn out on the sidelines. I don't know, Pete Carroll, I guess he doesn't age on the sidelines. He always comes with some energy.
That's true. That's the thing with Pete Carroll. He brings a lot of energy. He chews that gum, dude. You would think he's 50, to be honest.
That's what I'm saying. So yeah, I would agree. I'll give him another year just to kind of see, because I imagine they'll get a quarterback, they'll get Bryce Young, they'll get somebody, and then he'll run that. They'll suck again probably just because they don't have enough pieces, right? I mean, they have so much that they need to go out, spend, either draft or spend and get, and they just won't have it that quick. And he's just up there in age. So yeah, I would agree. Not this year. but next. So, I mean, any kind of closing thoughts on the Seahawks? When I went through their schedule, I mean, it's like throwing darts at a dartboard blindfolded when you try to pick wins for them. I ended up giving them 3 wins. I think it was over the Falcons at home. They were all home games, Falcons at home, Giants at home, and the Jets at home at the end of the season, just because I think the crowd, right? The crowd in Seattle is always going to show out, even if the team sucks. They're always going to fill that stadium, and it's kind of going to be rocking. So I just picked kind of 3 games where you have teams that travel across the country that are also not that good, right? The Giants, Jets, Falcons are all not great teams. And those are games I could see the Seahawks squeezing out. The line's like 5.5, though. I think it's heavy on the under.
Yeah, that 5.5 line, it just seems, I mean, I'd be very surprised if the Seahawks win 6 games. Just feels very heavy on the under. Like you said, I have them winning 2. I got them going 2-15. I think they'll be in contention for the 1 seed. Like, they'll be one of the worst teams in the league. Yeah, just pick of one of the few home games. There's an Atlanta game, there's a Giants game, a Jets game. Those are all winnable. Definitely feels like an under, and I'd be surprised if they win a road game this year.
Yeah, it's tough. I don't know. Yeah, it's weird. They're just that bad. But they have the home crowd. It's like, could they steal another? Could they win 4? I don't know. But yeah, 5.5 seems perfect that where books, they want to kind of tease you into it and try to get you a little bit. But let's move on to the Arizona Cardinals, the second team we'll cover in this division. Obviously, Cliff Kingsbury and the GM both get extensions. Kyler Murray gets extended. So everybody seems happy in the desert. Last year, I mean, we watched them. Would they start 7-0? They came out firing on all cylinders. And then we kind of see the second half Cardinals, what happens there. I mean, for the majority of their team, offensive line, stout. It's the same group. The question is, can they stay healthy the whole year? They still have Zach Ertz. They drafted Trey McBride. They have Max Williams as well. So tight end depths there. James Conner, obviously back at running back. I'm interested to see kind of who fills in behind him, because they kind of use James Conner all over. You imagine they'd want to get a guy in there to help him as well. AJ Green's back. Their big trade. They did trade for Marquise Hollywood Brown, and Rondell Moore slotted in there, obviously, with D-Hop missing. I believe it's the first 6 games due to taking steroids. It was fascinating. Then you go to the defensive side of the ball. Obviously, they lose Chandler Jones to the Raiders. That's kind of that's a big loss, because now you have really JJ Watt out there as kind of your premier pass rusher. We've seen JJ Watt. I mean, JJ Watt's good, but can he stay healthy for an entire year and shoulder that type of load? We don't know. I think they'll miss Chandler Jones quite a bit. Obviously, Isaiah Simmons and Zaven Collins, both their first round picks from the past 2 years, are still there. Marquise Golden coming off the edge, Buda Baker, and Byron Murphy Jr. So what do you make of the Cardinals? I mean, they start out 7-0. Everything seemed great last year. It all fell off. Then the offseason drama, everybody gets extended. So everybody's paid and happy. I guess I'll jump into the first question. You can kind of tie it into everything. Kyler's paid. Will the results on the field make it worth that contract this year?
Yeah, so this Arizona team on paper, I really like. They have a ton of weapons. Their offensive line is good. I like their running backs. I like their tight end. They have some really good pieces defensively as well. Chandler Jones is without a doubt impact on the game. You'll miss him. But to be fair, he had 10.5 sacks last year, and 5 of them was game 1 against Tennessee when he just abused Taylor Lewan, right? So as great as Chandler Jones is, I don't know if his impact was as big as we think it was, as it used to be. So definitely a loss, but I like this Cardinals team a lot on paper. I just have a hard time trusting them, which goes into the Kyler Murray getting paid question. It's wild that he had a clause in there about having to study, and then the internet bullied the franchise to change it. That was crazy. I don't know if we'll even see that again. My thing with Kyler is when he's healthy and he's actually on the field, he's dynamic, right? We've seen him make all the good plays. I think historically for his career, him and Cliff Kingsbury look so good in the first half of the year. Then the second half, they fall off. If we remember their playoff appearance against the Rams, that was bad. It was just, abysmal, brutal. So it's on paper, I want to believe in this Cardinals team, and I want to like Kyler Murray and all the weapons, but I take issues with Kyler. It seems like he comes off to me immature and has poor leadership skills. I think those are the things he really needs to work on. Not so much the football ability. Obviously, continue to work on that, you get better. But to me, I think he needs to work on the other stuff, and that's what makes me nervous for Kyler getting paid. I have confidence in that they'll be good and win games just because of the pure talent, but I don't think they're going to be elite and like take really the next step. And I think that goes into like the leadership and some of the intangible things.
Yeah, pure talent. What a word. Yeah, I mean, you look at the roster on paper. I love the O line, the weapons. When you get D Hop back, kind of how he fits in to that mold. You give Rondell Moore a real shot to kind of prove his worth. And then I think Hollywood Brown with a quarterback like Kyler can be dynamic. It fits. Those two fit each other way more than Lamar and Hollywood did. But yeah, I'm right with you with Kyler Murray. I don't know if him getting paid will result to anything more on the field. I've questioned, I don't know how truly invested in football he is, right? Does he really have that desire deep down inside of him? Like some of the other guys, like a Justin Herbert, like a Joe Burrow, is he one of those guys that when, the going gets tough, is he willing to step up and do things that you want your franchise quarterback to do? And especially your $250 million franchise quarterback now? I don't know. He definitely comes off as kind of immature. The holdout stuff, the video game stuff, the all this stuff on Twitter with the stats going down when Call of Duty comes out, the Call of Duty double XP weekend. After that, the stats are way down. All the Twitter trolls were out heavy. The study clause, right? That was super fascinating. Twitter literally bullied to get the study clause out. So he's just fascinating, right? I mean, I love watching him. The talent's there. The arm is ridiculous. The speed, the way that guy can, create plays and make things happen. Everything on paper is it's there, but yeah, him as a leader. And when the going gets tough, I just don't know if I can trust Kyler Murray as my guy to kind of, keep the ship sailing. You lose, as I always say, like the great quarterbacks, when you lose a game or two or three games or a game you're not supposed to lose, how they respond. You see the great ones, right? They're always able to respond and keep the locker room going. I don't know if Kyler Murray is one of those guys that kind of keeps the locker room going.
I don't know if he's one of the main leaders on the team. Like, obviously he's a leader, he's a quarterback, but like, I don't know if it's like his voice and everything ringing through the locker room.
Probably not. I'd imagine a lot of JJ Watt and probably Buda
Yeah.
Baker as well. Buda Baker kind of comes off to me as one of those guys that kind of takes command. But yeah, I mean, that's concerning too, right? Like you want your quarterback to be one of the vocal guys in the room. And yeah, the fact that we have to sit here and say, yeah, we don't know if Kyler Murray is that dude in the locker room. It's tough to project for them. Obviously, everybody got extensions, so we assume the ship's going to be rolling for the next at least couple of years. I thought Kingsbury could be on the hot seat right after the collapse last year, and the abysmal playoff. The playoff game was so bad, but obviously the front office, they trust him. They trust the Kyler. They're both bagged up, but yeah, there's legit concerns there. I mean, if all I could look at is on the field, he's a guy, but obviously it's a way bigger picture than just what happens on Sundays. Just go back. Question 2 is back to the pass rush, right? You mentioned, oh snap, let me bring that back up. You mentioned, Chandler Jones, he had 10.5 sacks, 5.5 were in one game last year. JJ Watt, obviously injury concerns. So what does their pass rush really look like now that Chandler Jones is gone? Because with a guy like Chandler Jones on the line attacking the quarterback, it opens up for guys like Marcus Golden, who had 11 sacks last year, right? Is he going to get that many opportunities when you imagine offensive lines and game plans are schemed around a guy like Chandler Jones and JJ Watt, which frees up Marcus Golden? He's now not going to get maybe that many, one-on-one looks. So, I mean, what's their pass rush look? The secondary is not that. It's not that stout. I like Byron Murphy. I like Buda Baker. But, I mean, they're kind of going to need the pass rush to at least do somebody step up, right? Maybe Golden can step up. Maybe JJ Watt can stay healthy. What's their pass rush look like? Because the secondary, I don't love their secondary.
Yeah, it does kind of worry me if I'm being honest. The offense doesn't really have holes. The defense to me has some holes. Like, I like the unit. I like individuals a lot, and it's like the unit as a whole, it kind of worries me. It's like everyone not named JJ Watt on the D line needs to be able to get pressure. And then, like you already alluded to / mentioned, like JJ Watt staying healthy is a huge question mark to me. You're going to need him for every single game, and that's not an exaggeration because they're in the NFC West, and it's already going to be extremely tough schedule wise because the NFC West gets the AFC West. So like the two best divisions are playing each other, so the wins will not come lightly. It totally worries me. I do think like they're going to miss just the presence of Chandler Jones, even though he wasn't extremely productive stat sheet wise at the end of the year. His presence was definitely felt on the field. Yeah, I don't think Marcus Golden gets as many sacks. I think we need I think they need to get creative with Isaiah Simmons as well, because he can do a lot. You can move him around. But yeah, they're going to need some good coaching. The secondary will need help at times, and they need someone not named JJ Watt to show up consistently. And I'm not sure who that individual is.
For sure. I don't know if they have it. That's a great point with Isaiah Simmons as well. I was reading about the Cardinals like yesterday. It was a day or two ago about them trying to figure out how to get Zaven Collins and Isaiah Simmons on the field at the same time. They're both athletic linebackers. I know that Vance Joseph probably has to look at what Dallas is doing with Micah Parsons and be like, damn, how do we unlock that out of Isaiah Simmons, who's almost just as athletic, to be honest. They're both athletic freaks. So yeah, I like that they had to figure out a way to make use out of Isaiah Simmons. It was like, I love the pick at the time, but it kind of really, they haven't used him, and he kind of hasn't exploded to that level that I thought he would in the league so far. But
I think Isaiah Simmons can be talked about with Micah Parsons, like at least on paper, talent wise.
yeah, the athleticism's there. Like him at Clemson was ridiculous. I just don't think, they haven't really found a kind of a true role. I think he was playing a little bit of safety before, and then they moved him down in the linebacker. They just it's up to Vance Joseph, right, to figure out, but they're going to have to kind of figure out something, because although Chandler Jones might not be a gigantic loss, right, it might not be a killing blow to the defense. It's going to be something, especially with JJ Watt's health. I don't think that guy's played a full year in like 5, 6 years, 7 years. It's been a while, man. It's been so long. I mean, he's good when he's on the field, but it's like we always know that a lot of freak injuries happen to him. It's so odd how one dude that's so dominant can get just always a weird injury, and they're always like season ending.
Yeah, it's strange. JJ always has to miss like 8 weeks at a time.
Yeah, it's insane. Last question is really what do you think DeAndre Hopkins' production will look like after he misses the first 6 weeks, right? You kind of miss 6 weeks worth of games. I always mention this, right? And say Kyler Murray, he's humming on all motors with Hollywood and Rondale Moore and AJ Green. How does kind of DeAndre Hopkins, I forgot Zach Ertz as well. They use James Conner, right? There's so many guys out there that he's going to build chemistry with over the first 6 games of the season. How does DeAndre Hopkins kind of fit himself back in there? Obviously on paper, I mean, DeAndre Hopkins is a beast. We know what he can do on the field, but those chemistry things, when you miss six games and Kyler finds other guys that he's hitting routes and the timings there with. So what do you think about DeAndre Hopkins when he comes back week 7?
From a football standpoint, like outside of the stats, like it'll be very lethal with Arizona, like so many options on the field. But to DeAndre Hopkins' point, with all the options on the field, I think even if he was there the whole time, it's tough to see him having as good of a season as he's had in the past, with just so many mouths to feed and so many good players. Because Kyler has the ability to literally just spread the ball everywhere. He has good weapons at every single position this year. So I think Hopkins slides back in and gets going, right? I just don't think he has a monster year. One, obviously, because he's missing games, but two, there's just so many mouths to feed. So that I think even when he is there, we could see some quiet games from him, just because they're rolling on the ground or with the tight ends or with Marquise Brown, Rondale Moore, like one of the other guys. And then I think that ultimately leaves DeAndre Hopkins with like 600 to 800 yard season and like around 4 touchdowns, like a good year, but as for Hopkins standards, not good.
Yeah, I agree. It's just, it's hard to miss 6 games and kind of slap back in there. I'm interested to see how Rondale Moore plays for those first 6 weeks, because it's really an opportunity for him, right, to kind of come out and say, all right, I'm the guy, this is why you guys drafted me. And, if he doesn't hit, then obviously you're going to just slide Hopkins right back in. It'll be much easier to slide DeAndre Hopkins right back in and say, okay, see you later, Rondale Moore. Like, you're not the dude. Because I imagine AJ Green's going to like hold his slot down. I don't know. Last year, like Kyler and AJ Green, they were hitting up at a decent clip where it was weird. And then I imagine Hollywood Brown and Kyler, just from the OU days, like I think he's going to get a lot of attention just because, one, they traded for him, and two, there's that connection between them from Oklahoma, where they might try to force the ball to him a little bit more. But I mean, I think DeAndre Hopkins, when he comes back, will obviously be a weapon just because of how good he is. But I don't know if it'll be up to the level that we're used to. I mean, the missed games hurt, but as you alluded to, there's a lot of guys out there. I didn't even mention Zach Ertz. They like to use James Conner as well. Kyler Murray runs the ball as well. There's a lot of dudes out there, but I'm interested to see how the Rondale Moore thing shakes out, because he could easily be on the move after this year if he kind of doesn't at least show something in these first 6 games. That's really all I have for the Cardinals. They went 11-6 last year, obviously after the collapse. Went through the schedule this year. I had them at 8-9. I don't know. I like the talent on paper. If this is like just a simulation where you don't actually play the football games and it's just based off talent, they could probably have them at 9 or 10. But when it all shakes out, I had them at 8-9. I think the Vegas line is literally right on 8, if I'm not mistaken, as of now. So yeah, 8-9 for the Cardinals. It's going to be a disappointing year, honestly, when you look at what the expectation is when you re-sign Kyler, re-sign Cliff Kingsbury, and bring the whole gang back.
Yeah, that last point you made, being a disappointing year, that's like crazy to say to me with the amount of talent on this roster, but I'm right there with you. I expect a letdown. Like I expect, like if we remember at one point last year, they were like the 1 seed the NFC. I think we were halfway through the year. They looked like the best team, like in the division. They were really cruising. They were beating up on everybody, flying around the ball defensively. Like they looked really good, and then they slowed down. The wheels kind of fell off, and I expect a similar situation. I have them going 9-8. Once again, they play the AFC West as well. They have a really tough division. Plus, you get Tampa Bay thrown in there as another NFC opponent. You get New Orleans as another NFC opponent. Like those aren't easy games. So I got them 9-8, 4-2 in the division. I have them sneaking into the playoffs as the 7th seed. But for full transparency, I had Dallas originally in the playoffs with 11 wins. Tyron Smith injury, I took away their Minnesota win and made them split with Washington, which pushes them slightly out of the playoffs because they would be tied with Arizona, and it slides Arizona in. So I got Arizona barely making the playoffs, 9-8. They kind of just squeeze in there as a wild card team, which I feel like if you're a part of the Arizona organization, you would say that's a disappointing season.
Yeah, probably just to sneak in. It's funny mentioning last year. We spent last year, I think, after like the first 3 or 4 weeks saying, all right, well, here, when are the Cardinals going to like come back down to earth, right? And then they win another game, and then it's they're 5-0. When are they going to come back down to earth? This is the week. Then they win another one. Yeah, the Cardinals, they're the ultimate Jekyll and Hyde team. But yeah, it'll be a disappointing year if they're sneaking in, or whether they're 8-9 and missing the playoffs like I have them. Yeah, it's tough to come back from how last year shook out. But let's keep it moving. We got the San Francisco 49ers. They went 10-7 last year, obviously went all the way to the NFC title game, played their division rival, the Rams, right? The third match. That was a hell of a game, to be honest. They returned Kyle Shanahan, obviously. And then the big one, they get back Deebo Samuel, right? Everybody thought, where's Deebo going? Where's Deebo going all off season? He's holding up signs saying, trade me, and I'm not coming back, and laughing on Twitter. They eventually get the deal done. Obviously, Brandon Ayuk's still out there. Some O-line concerns. They have Trent Williams still, obviously left tackle, but Alex Mack retired center, and they lost left guard Laken Tomlinson, Pro Bowler, who went to the Jets. So the O-line's kind of stretched, and Mike McGlinchey really hasn't been that great. And then the big one, quarterback Trey Lance. No more Jimmy G. Obviously, wait and see with him. He'll probably get cut, to be honest. I don't think there's a trade market. They kind of milked it too long. But Trey Lance, it's what everybody's been excited for since last year when they drafted him. Go to the defensive side of the ball. They kind of bring back the same guys, right? Nick Bosa, Javon Kinlaw, Eric Armstead. They got a stacked defense. Trey Greenlaw, Fred Warner. Corners concern me, especially, and safeties. Now that Jimmy Ward had like a grade 3 hamstring strain, he's probably out for half the year at least. I've seen like he could be missing upwards of 8 or 9 games. But what do you make of the 49ers? I mean, on paper, their goals, to get over the hump. They went to the NFC title last year with Jimmy G. They get Trey Lance, who they drafted 3rd overall, gave up all the draft capital for. How do you think it shakes out for them? And do you think Trey Lance is going to be the real deal?
Yeah, so I'm really high on this Niners team. I picked them to win the NFC last year heading into the playoffs. They got pretty close. I just like this roster a lot. The offensive line changes do concern me. They still have Trent Williams, and the thing when it comes to the struggles of the offensive line, or the things that worry me with the Niners, is that they have such phenomenal coaching that I fully believe in that coaching staff to make adjustments and cover up the holes / weaknesses. Same thing goes for the defense. I like that defense a lot. It's just like anything they're kind of weak at. Like the reason I have a lot of faith in this Niners team is simply because their coaching staff is extremely smart and makes adjustments and knows how to cover up weaknesses very well. Which brings me into like the Trey Lance thing. That's a big question mark, right? I think obviously there's a huge range of outcomes of what the season could be for Trey Lance. And I do think the ceiling, like the higher part of it, is like they could win a Super Bowl. Like they could be in the Super Bowl representing the NFC. I'm not saying they're going to. I'm just saying that on paper, like the talent is all there. It's all about how Trey Lance puts it together. There's been reports about Trey Lance kind of struggling in training camp, but then there's like flashes of his talent. We saw that deep pass in the preseason game that was really pretty. I think Trey Lance is going to struggle at times this year. I think there's going to be a few stretches where he does not look very good, but I think it's all about just getting reps and experience. Once again, the weapons are phenomenal around him. Great coaching staff. I think Trey Lance will have a good season, not a great year. I think he'll have a good year, a good foundation, a lot to build on. I expect the coaching staff, once again, I can't rave about them enough. I expect them to make life easy for him, whether pre-snap motion or making him attack the weak side. And it's just, I see him getting out on the run, throwing it to like on like slides a lot. So it's like, I think the coaching staff will help him out a lot. And I think he's going to show some real flashes.
Yeah, they got an elite coaching staff. Kyle Shanahan, at least elite offensive mind. D'Amico Ryan's actually been a solid defensive coordinator too, replacing Robert Saleh. But yeah, I mean, I love this roster too, right? You imagine they can go to an NFC title game, be one game away from a Super Bowl with Jimmy G, and now you throw in Trey Lance, a guy that you gave up all this draft capital to move up and you assume, yeah, this is the guy who'll get us over the hump. Obviously, I love the finding a way to keep Deebo Samuel. That really makes life easier for a guy who hasn't played really that many competitive games in the past year or two. Obviously, with the one game last season with North Dakota State. So being able to maximize the weapons, keeping Deebo Samuel, and then obviously George Kittle's there. Hopefully he can stay on the field for the entire year. That's a hell of a security blanket for a rookie quarterback to kind of to be able to just look for and have easy catches. And then obviously with the backfield and a Kyle Shanahan scheme, they're going to find production. Elijah Mitchell was a great last year. I've seen Trey Sermon even. They said he was having a solid preseason, solid training camp. It's interesting to see him he's down here on this depth chart, but obviously it's not completely up to date. So they just have running backs for days, right? Kyle Shanahan's going to be able to cycle guys in and get the ground game going. And then I didn't even mention Kyle Juszczyk, who always finds a way to do something in that offense. So yeah, with Trey Lance, as far as being the real deal, I mean, I can't sit back and say 100%, right? We did see that deep throw, and then we saw the flip side of it this past preseason game where it was rocky and it wasn't that good. I think that's what the season's going to look like. I think the people that are just coming out and saying, right, they went this far with Jimmy G and did this and that with Jimmy G, insert Trey Lance. If he can just do this, right, I just think like if it was that easy just to go out and do it, right, it's way harder to go out and do it than people are making it out to be, because all I hear is if he can do X of this that Jimmy G couldn't do, they're skyrocketing. I obviously think they're definitely an NFC Super Bowl contender, right? It just depends. How quick can Trey Lance, get acclimated? Can he get through the bumps and the bruises early? And find a way to make it smooth sailing. So I can't say, I mean, he's definitely going to be the real deal. Like, I think he's going to be a solid quarterback just because of the scheme, the coaching, and everything around him is set up for him to be that good. But I don't know if he'll be able to take them over the hump to that next level.
I'll say this about the Jimmy G Trey Lance thing, because like what you're saying, like, oh, they did this with Jimmy G and just plug in Trey Lance in the Super Bowl. I think like we can downplay Jimmy G a lot, but we should give him some credit. The dude's a winner. Like when it matters most, he's not an elite guy, right? You don't want to put it all on his back, but like he did win those games. He made smart decisions. He got him to a Super Bowl, another conference appearance. Like when Jimmy G's healthy and actually on the field for full years, like he has winning seasons. The dude wins games. So like, yeah, he's not like that guy, but I think this idea that you plug in Trey Lance and they get so much better is a little far-fetched. Like Jimmy G was slightly like average to above average at times. He wasn't as bad as it sometimes gets played out to be.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, I'm not a huge Jimmy G guy either, right? I don't think he's anything special, but as you said, he kind of knew what he was, right? And didn't kind of try to play outside of those means. Obviously, it failed at the end of last year. It is what it is. But yeah, I just think the people that are going in and just, I mean, what if Trey Lance is out there in the NFC title game and sails the damn ball 13 times over guys' heads? And, we're sitting here, we're talking about something different. I just think it's impossible to say, yeah, if we just plug him in, like we're this much better, right? On paper, yeah, you could say, but obviously the games aren't played on paper, right? So we gotta see. But I mean, I like Trey Lance. Like I think he's gonna be legit. He has everything around him to be legit. It's kind of just one of those, those situations where you get the Zach Wilsons of the world that kind of get unlucky and they get sent to the Jets with a defensive head coach with a bad roster. And then you get the guys like Trey Lance that luck out, smart organization, trades up. You got guys like Debo, Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle. You got Trent Williams covered in your blind side, Elijah Mitchell. You just have everything along with a elite front seven on that defense that can help you out as well, right? If you're not having a great game, but it's just hard. I don't know. People, I think, just go off the deep end, right? When they just say plug in Trey Lance, Super Bowl bang. Like, I don't know, especially for a guy that hasn't played that many competitive football games in going on 2 years, right? So it's going to take time for him when the regular season starts to kind of see that speed. We can try to judge it off of preseason with third and fourth string guys out there, but week one's a whole different ball game. Next question is really, is the O-line good enough? Obviously they lose their starting center. That's a big one. When you're starting center, the center is the quarterback of the O-line almost, as we see when that guy retires, and then you lose a Pro Bowler at guard. They had Aaron Banks last year, who was slated in to compete for a guard spot on there. And I read that he lasted all of like 5 snaps and they pulled the plug on him last year. So that was the entirety of his rookie year in 2021. Does the O-line is it going to be good enough to protect and do everything that Kyle Shanahan wants to do this year?
That's a really tough question for me to answer, to be honest. I do think they're going to struggle at times. I think there's going to be some really rough stretches, some false starts, some penalties. Here's the saving grace. There's 2 things. I think the one I keep harping on over and over and over again is the coaching staff making adjustments, pre-snap motion, just trying to, disguise things to help them out. Then the other one is they have a mobile quarterback now. Trey Lance got some legs. He can get out of the pocket. He can run. And I think that also goes into the coaching staff, like I said, getting throws on the run and getting receivers open that way. I think they're going to need a lot of that to kind of mask and cover up the offensive line at times. Now, I could be wrong. They could go out there and play well. There's just question marks, and I don't have a ton of confidence in them.
Yeah, the interior is suspect. I love the tackles, although McGlinchey hasn't been great. He's probably better than what they have on the inside. And then obviously Trent Williams, a Pro Bowl left tackle, is solid. Yeah, so there's concerns on the inside, especially if Aaron Banks sucks it up again, right? It's like, who do you turn to now, right? Like then you're going down to another guy that couldn't beat this guy out originally. But yeah, you kind of hit on it, right? The coaching staff smart enough. The zone run scheme should be able to create enough. And then, yeah, Trey Lance being able to get outside and do things. I wonder, that'll be interesting, right? Because those guys are used to blocking for Jimmy G, who doesn't move. And now you got a guy who can kind of extend plays and do this and do that. So, yeah, it's kind of a two-way thing. I just worry about the interior of that O-line, especially if any of them go down, right? Because then you're kind of digging into the depths. But Kyle Shanahan's he's a pretty smart guy. He knows what he's doing. So I don't say it won't derail them. Their O-line, I'd say it's good enough, but it's definitely not great. Last question is kind of just how does their secondary concern you? You got to minus out Jimmy Ward. He's still on there. Cross him out. Obviously, he's out for half the year. What do you make of their secondary? Obviously, the front's good enough, right? If their front is going at all cylinders and gets to the quarterback, like I believe it was 2020 when they went to the Super Bowl and played the Chiefs, right? They can go all day. But obviously, it's hard to say that you can repeat that type of level of production. Obviously, they have the talent. So does their secondary concern you this year?
The secondary 100% concerns me. No Jimmy Ward as well. Jimmy Ward back there, I got much more faith that makes a big difference to me. But that's clearly the weak part of the unit, right? Like, look at the names. It's Armstead, Bosa, and then linebackers, Greenlaw and Fred Warner. They're both phenomenal. So it's like, yeah, you're looking at the back end of the defense. You lose a guy like Jimmy Ward. That 100% worries me quite a bit. I think the unit as a whole is more than good enough to make up for it. D'Amico Ryans has been a pretty damn good defensive coordinator, to be honest. So I'm not worried about the unit as a whole, but I think there's going to be, just like the offensive line, I think there's going to be moments where this secondary gets burned. Like you can throw the ball on them if the pass rush is not getting there. So that does worry me.
Yeah, and they lost Jaquiski Tart as well, who, although he dropped an easy interception last year, that's another experienced body back there, right, that you don't have. So yeah, their secondary is definitely concerning, right? If teams are scheming up and they can stop that pass rush and they can keep the pass rush under control and create time, the secondary is probably going to get beat up, and it'll be a long day. But D'Amico Ryans is seemingly a smart dude. He had a solid year filling in and taking over for Robert Saleh, so I have no reason to think that he won't be able to scheme up enough pressure. But kind of their depth and just the secondary as a whole is definitely concerning. But I expect that front four to be attacking quarterbacks on all cylinders, along with Fred Warner, Dre Greenlaw, their linebackers, solid depth there. They kind of have everything you want in the front seven. They just got to be able to do enough to mask up that secondary, which is definitely the weaker part of that unit. That's kind of all that I have written down for the 49ers. I mean, they obviously have Super Bowl potential. I always like to watch Kyle Shanahan teams. The offense is usually fun to watch, the way they use all their pieces. It's like watching chess on a football field, right? With Deebo Samuel, and then check, and then you'll see Elijah Mitchell. Then you'll see another random running back you never heard of that'll go off again. They're just a fun team to watch. And then with the pass rush as well, getting after quarterbacks, they have everything there. The real question is, can number 5 under center take them to the next level? They went 10-7 last year. When I went through their record, I have them repeating a 10-7 record. I just think the bumps and bruises early with Trey Lance and kind of in the middle point of the season, they'll maybe cost you a game or two that you wouldn't want to lose. But I mean, they'll be good enough to get into the playoffs. I think 10-7 is a solid first year for Trey Lance. I think they'd be happy with that, realizing that next year will be the ultimate, where they're really trying to make the push. Obviously, Super Bowl is the goal this year, but I think next year is the big push.
Yeah, so this is year 2 for Trey Lance, but it might as well be his rookie season. And like, I'm with you on like next year being a really big push, because year 2 for quarterbacks, they really pop. And then I'd be remiss if I don't mention Brandon Ayuk while we talk about the Niners, because I think he's in for a monster year at receiver, along with all those other weapons, because he's really popping right now and he has all the talent in the world. And with that said, I'm a little bit higher than 10-7. I got 11-6. They are for sure a playoff team, 4-2 in the division. I think there's going to be times where the Niners look like world beaters, and you could be like, man, they might win the Super Bowl. And I think there's going to be times this year where like we look at the Niners and be like, man, they're struggling. I don't know. So I do think they have a good year, though. I think they make the playoffs, and it's all about getting Trey Lance reps and snaps. And if he is that guy, and I think he definitely can be, I'm with you. This year will be very good, and they have the potential, but the following year should be a lot of excitement.
For sure. Their range of outcomes are interesting. It's funny with Brandon Ayuk too, who was basically like out of the rotation last year and then found himself back in, and now he looks to be a integral part of the offense. But yeah, they have just a weird range of outcomes, right? If Trey Lance pops, they could probably win 11 or 12 games with ease if he doesn't have any growing pains, I should say, trying to find the word. But yeah, the 49ers, they're going to be a solid team. They're going to be a solid team for years to come too. They're going to be a force in the NFC for the next 5, 7, 10 years if Trey Lance works out. Let's move on. Last team in the NFC West that we're covering, obviously the defending world champions. They went 12-5 last year. The Los Angeles Rams. Sean McVay does not retire, which set off a trigger effect that Aaron Donald didn't retire. They both get new deals. It was always weird with Sean McVay. It's like, seems like he loves football, but then he's also like a weird dude as well, where he could easily, he's made for TV, right? He could go get anything, go be on The Bachelor, go do something like that. But I feel like he loves football too much to kind of walk away at this age. He realizes it's like his prime years of coaching. And with this roster, why would you walk away? You're not really you don't always get opportunities like this with a group like this. But when you look at their offense, the big slot in Odell Beckham, as of right now, is out. Obviously, the ACL thing. So, I mean, he's a free agent. I've always kind of figured that they might try to snag him back up, late in the season, very cheap, bring him back for the stretch run, especially if somebody like Von Jefferson or Allen Robinson, who they went out and got in free agency, goes down, right? Why not bring a guy that you can trust back into the fray? Obviously Matt Stafford's back, Cam Akers, Darrell Henderson back there. They drafted Kyron Williams from Notre Dame. It'll be interesting to see how the running back room kind of works out. I'll get into that, especially Cam Akers' fumble issues against the Bucs in the playoffs nearly costed them. Darrell Henderson seemed to get solid production as well. They still have Tyler Higbee, and then when you go to the defensive side, Aaron Donald's there. Obviously big loss, Von Miller. They brought him in at midseason last year. He went to Buffalo, got the bag. They would have probably loved to keep him just because the production, he seemed like the Von Miller of old on the D line with Aaron Donald. Instead, they bring in Bobby Wagner. They still have Leonard Floyd, and then secondary wise, they lost Darius Williams as well. But they still have Jalen Ramsey back there, who some would say is the best corner in football. I don't think he's the best corner in football, but he's up there. So what do you make of the Rams, and how bad do you think they will miss Von Miller and Darius Williams this season? I think Von Miller will be missed a little bit more than Darius Williams, just because secondary is fluky anyway, but pass rush is so big in the league. So what do you make of the Rams, and how will they miss those two guys?
Yeah, I really like this Rams team. They have all the tools and abilities to run it back and be Super Bowl champions again. I know you talked about the defensive addition / subtractions, but like the Allen Robinson addition, I just love. I think Allen Robinson's in line to have a really good year. We've seen Matthew Stafford elevate receivers. Cooper Kupp / Calvin Johnson have two of the best seasons in history with him throwing the ball. Allen Robinson has been a very productive, very good receiver with like no quarterback play in his career. So I'm extremely excited for him. And then just to the point of the Williams and Von Miller subtractions, I think they're definitely going to hurt. Like, you add Bobby Wagner, and that's phenomenal. He's a great addition. He doesn't give you what Von Miller gives you rushing the quarterback, and I think that's going to be definitely missed. I'm with you on that. You're playing dudes like Joe Burrow in the Super Bowl, like you need to get to him, right? We saw the final play. If he had one more second, that's what sealed up the Super Bowl was the pass rush. So that does worry me, but man, the Rams have everything in the toolbox to repeat.
For sure. Yeah. Had a lot of action going on back there in the background. Yeah, I like Allen Robinson as well, man. When you got when he's stuck in a system with Justin Fields, Matt Nagy, and a shitty O-line, it's hard really to do anything. And then you get blessed, right? You say, okay, well, now I get to go play with Matt Stafford, Sean McVay, and these guys, Cooper Kupp, right? He's going to get so many open looks, and I'm with you, man. He's going to be in store for a solid year, just because Cooper Kupp is going to get a lot of double teams, a lot of safety help over the top, and a lot of priority on teams' defensive schemes. So it's going to free up Allen Robinson to kind of have a year he's been looking to have. And then, yeah, I mean, it's tough to replace Von Miller, as you mentioned, when you're going to try to play teams like the Chiefs, and you're going to play teams like who else? The Niners in your division, teams that you just have to get after the quarterback and create havoc in the backfield. Lose a guy like Von Miller, although he's older, it's going to be tough. Leonard Floyd's still there. Obviously, Aaron Donald does what he does. He's swinging helmets in practice and going a little bit crazy. But yeah, I just think they're going to miss that production. It's hard to kind of just fill in and replace Von Miller, who kind of seemed to return to the old form. It's been a couple of years for him, but when he got to LA, he seemed to be super productive again. But obviously he's in Buffalo now. Question 2 with the Rams is, can Cam Akers hold on to that running back 1 slot, right? Obviously we see that Darrell Henderson was productive, and Cam Akers has fumble issues, right? When you have fumble issues as a running back, you could be out of there very quick. So do you think you can hold on to that running back 1 spot?
I do. I actually have faith in Cam Akers. So I don't want to downplay the fumbling. You're 100% correct. That's a big issue. And if he continues to do that, like, he won't get the spot. But we saw him get hurt, come back to play at the end of the year. And like the second he was back and like ready to go, they slotted him right in and gave him the touches. Like, Darrell Henderson is a good back and very productive, and we'll see plenty of him this year. But to me, it's all Cam Akers. Like, they prefer Cam Akers. They want Cam Akers to get as many touches as possible. It seems like he just has to stay healthy and not fumble the ball. Those are not small adjusts. Like, those are big things. Don't get me wrong. Easier said than done. But yeah, Cam Akers has all the tools. and he's further removed from the injury. They have the Super Bowl swagger and confidence. I just think Cam Akers is going to have a good year. I think he's going to hold on to the position, and like we could see Cam Akers put up some pretty big numbers.
Yeah, I mean, as long as he doesn't fumble the football, dude, the job's probably his, right? That's the big thing. You start fumbling the football, especially in big games, late in games. It's hard to have confidence. But it seemed like Sean McVay likes him, right? They kept going to him, as you mentioned, like even with the fumbles, they were trotting him back out there. So yeah, I think we will see a lot of Darrell Henderson as well, just as we've mentioned in multiple of these team previews. Is the two running back scheme seems to be the thing nowadays, anyway. But yeah, Cam Akers, I could see him in line if he can hold on to the ball. We'll see that in less than a week and a half. We'll see Thursday night, September, I think 9th or 8th against the Buffalo Bills, if he can hold on to the rock. I think that kind of determines his fate, because I think it forces Sean McVay's hands. If he has a bunch of fumbling issues early, it's kind of, can we keep that guy in that running back one slot? But it's all there for him because McVay loves him. And yeah, as you mentioned, everything's there for him. Last thing about the Rams, I mean, it's kind of tough to draw questions about them, but there was rumors about Matt Stafford's elbow. He kind of had a weird elbow injury, got an injection, didn't really throw that much. I think he threw a little bit so far in training camp. Does that concern you long-term entering the season, right? 17-game season, plus this team's looking to go to the Super Bowl. So you're looking at 18, 19, 20 games. If he gets banged up, does the elbow concern you as we get into the middle part of the season, late in the season?
The elbow definitely does concern me. From what I understand, it is not like a rest up, get healed, and your elbow's good thing. From what I understand, it's a pain management thing. Like it's just something he has to deal with. And like it's just a huge deal for the Rams. They traded for Matthew Stafford last year. He was the missing piece, obviously got him over the hump. And he's at a position where they have literally zero depth. If Matthew Stafford's not playing, like you just need the defense to give up 0 points. Like the offense is tough without Matthew Stafford. But the good news is that Matthew Stafford is an incredibly tough dude. If you look throughout his career, he got beat up in Detroit a lot, and he was on the field all the time still. I think Matthew Stafford will be fine. He'll play through it. If he has to sit 1 or 2 in the middle of the season when they're in a good position, maybe. But in general, it does worry me because, it's long-term. That's your star quarterback. But he's a tough dude, and I expect him to play through it.
Yeah, it worries me just because I don't know what the hell is the matter. Is it like a pitcher in baseball? Does he need Tommy John surgery to throw a football? As you mentioned, it's a pain management thing. I just worry, you get to week, I don't know, 13, 14, 15, and the kind of, maybe even out of the gates, like the zip's not there. He's not fitting the ball into the windows that you'd expect. And you kind of see those results on the field. Obviously, Matt Stafford's a warrior. The dude got beat up playing for the Lions for so many years. He's going to want to be out there every game, but if the arm strength, the power is not there, they're in a tough spot, right? Where they're looking at, I don't know. They don't really have any option. That's the crazy thing. It's not like, yeah, let's try out John Wolford. Let's try out Bryce Perkins. Like, no, it's let's shoot Matt Stafford's elbow up with as much steroids as we can. And let's get him back out there. Right. There is no other option, as you mentioned. So they're in a weird spot. The elbow it only concerns me because I don't know exactly what is wrong. I don't think anybody really knows, probably besides the Rams training staff, that knows exactly what's wrong with his elbow. So we'll just see. As I said, a week and a half. We'll see him. I imagine he'll come out with some zip early in the season, but I wonder, even you get the week 5, 6, 7, what will the arm look like? How do they manage that through practice in the season? He's going to be throwing a lot in practice. Is it, So it's kind of just odd concerns with a lack of knowledge to what is actually wrong with his elbow. But all in all, were you going to say something?
I was gonna say the only benefit there too is Stafford is like if he does not practice or whatever, it's like you got a vet with so much experience that Stafford's one of the few dudes you would have some confidence just plugging in and playing on Sunday.
Yep, he's fine. It just gets weird. I don't know. We'll see how we'll kind of see and watch how it develops overall. It's tough to, as I said, there's like a lack of knowledge even surrounding the injury. I don't even think many reporters or anybody knew much of what was going on. But all in all, when I went through the Rams schedule, it doesn't really derail their season. I wasn't completely that worried. I have them going 10-7 this year, just kind of a little bit of Super Bowl, maybe a little bit of Super Bowl hangover, a little bit of elbow injury. And then obviously losing Von Miller on the other side, kind of secondary takes a step down. So I have them going 10-7. They did win the division. I think it edged out the 49ers when I did it. So they'll be in the playoffs. They're back in the big dance. They just take a step back, couple wins back from last year. But I mean, they're still going to be right in there. As I say, I always say, when you get to the playoffs, everybody's 0-0. You just got to get there, right? So they'll be in the playoffs 10-7.
Yeah, so I'm pretty high on this Rams team. Like, I think just as a whole, the coaching, the whole team, like them as a full unit is just so well put together. I have them being the 1 seed in the NFC again. I think it runs through LA. I got them 13-4, 4-2 in the division. Yeah, they have a tough schedule, but it's like I go through it and I see them winning these tough games. A lot of them are at home. Some are on the road, but in general, I like this Rams team a lot. I think they have everything that they need to repeat, and I think they'll be right there again. I think they're the 1 seed in the NFC.
The 1 seed in the NFC. So as we kind of wrap up the NFC, do you have either the Rams or the 49ers going to the Super Bowl? Do you have either of those two teams representing the NFC as of right now?
Those are my 2 picks, actually. I know it's like the one thing I don't like doing is picking the conference, the 2 teams that appeared in the conference championship last year. But those are my two favorites right now. I'm leaning Rams simply because of the Trey Lance question mark. That's a very big position. We'll see how Trey Lance does. Knowing me, when the playoffs roll around, if we get that matchup, I'm probably going to roll Niners because I just favor them. But yeah, those are my top 2. Like the Bucks are right there, and Green Bay and Minnesota is interesting. But no, I do think it's the Rams and the Niners, the top 2 in the NFC, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree. And then, I mean, I like the Bucks as long as Tom Brady's there as well. The O-line's kind of deteriorating over there as well. They've got like multiple centers, season-ending injuries. So they got stuff to work out with there, plus Tom Brady going on vacations and doing all that stuff. I mean, I'm not worried, but yeah, I wouldn't disagree. I just like to hear any kind of closing thoughts on the NFC West before we kind of wrap up. This is the last of the NFC. All we have is the AFC West next week to get through.
Super excited to watch the NFC West. Super excited for football. My final NFC playoff teams, my final prediction is going to be Rams, Niners, Cardinals, Bucks, Packers, Vikings, Eagles.
For sure. Well, I don't have a list written down. Obviously, I had the Eagles winning the NFC East, these 2 teams making the playoffs, the Bucks, Packers. Yeah, I don't have a list written down. Probably should have written one down. Didn't prepare for that. My guy here comes with some notes that I did not, but yeah, that's going to do it. I mean, the NFC was super cool. The NFC West is always fun to cover with these 2 teams, but yeah, that's going to be a wrap for today's show. Thank you for listening. Please like, subscribe, and comment. As always, if you have any suggestions, add us on Twitter, post in the comments of this video. Spotify link will be in the description, and yeah, we'll be back next week. It's crazy Saturday. Yeah, we'll be back next week to cover the AFC West and kind of wrap this thing up.